Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Partner Forum, sponsored by RBL LLC and the Rice Biotech Launch Pad, who partner together to bridge the gap between academic biotech discoveries and the clinical care market. I'm Britt Whitmore, executive producer at StatBrand Studio, and I'll be moderating today's discussion: how national leaders joined to accelerate Houston's life sciences industry. I am thrilled to introduce our esteemed panel of experts. Please join me in welcoming today Bob Langer, professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology via the David H. Koch Institute for Integrated Research; Bill McKeon, the president and CEO of Texas Medical Center; Jeff Wade, the chairman of the board at BioHouston; and last but not least, Paul Wotton, the chair and founder of RBL LLC, and executive chairman of the Biotech Launch Pad at Rice University, Houston. Thank you all for joining me today.
Good morning, Britt.
Good morning. I'm excited for our discussion. So that being said, let's dive in. So Houston, not necessarily a city that first comes to everyone's mind when you think about a biopharma hub, but in reality, it's rapidly emerging as one. What's the driving force or forces behind this emergence and transformation? Paul, what would you say here?
So good morning, everybody. It's nice to be part of this webinar. And for me, the potential that Houston has to contribute to our biotech growth in this country was initiated by a clinical study that I ran from a company in Boston down here in Houston with MD Anderson. And we developed a product from bench to bedside in about 3 years, which is amazing. And we were able to do that because of a number of facilities down here in Houston. We had the clinical team at MD Anderson. There was a manufacturing unit on site as well. And we were able to get into the clinic with a coordinated approach, but coordinated locally, but not just with local people, but with world-class faculty as well. So that really opened my eyes, because my first question to myself kind of was, if I can do this, why isn't there another company using this approach to expedite programs into the clinic? And I think what's happened in Houston more recently is that the work that Bill has done to catalyze innovation in the city through the construction of the Helix Park development has really changed the environment here in Houston for biotech significantly.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to Helix Park in a second. But Jeff, I'd love to hear your point of view here to build on what Paul is saying. What are some of Houston's unique strengths as a city that built the foundation for this up and coming hub? And how has the city leveraged those to build new models for biotech commercialization and company creation?
Sure. So, one of the great advantages of Houston, it's always been a hub for life science innovation.
Mm-hmm.
We have some top tier medical schools, and the institutions, medical research institutions here, have produced innovations from genomics to gene therapy, from cancer to cardiovascular disease and beyond. And that's always been the case. And there are a lot of important medicines that have originated either from academic institutions or from companies based in Houston. One of the challenges that we've had is really building on that, building the commercial infrastructure. And what we have been doing deliberately around that is some of it's coming out of the institutions, the Texas Medical Center and the academic institutions, being deliberate about bringing companies forward, but also helping to build out the infrastructure to support companies as they emerge and to help them be more likely to be successful. And that's been one of the key efforts over the past few years, and we've been generating quite a bit of momentum in that area. one of the other advantages, and this is something that Paul mentioned, is that this is a hub of clinical care. And this is a tremendous base of clinical care here, being able to run clinical studies. There are people who've come here from all over the world to get treated for diseases and conditions, and that's something that you just don't see everywhere. And so we have some tremendous opportunities to help develop new therapies because of the fact that we have such a large base of clinical care. And the city itself is the most diverse in the United States. So it's got a tremendous background of talented people, but also the ability to look at across many different backgrounds and do very high quality clinical research here.
And I mean, not to mention, seems like a great place to live. You're a
Yes.
Texas native, aren't you?
I'm pretty close to a Texas native. I
Okay.
wasn't born here, but I've lived here a long time. But it is a fantastic place to live, and it's a good place to build a company. I've spent before leading BioHouston, I spent 25 years in the industry in a biopharma company bringing drugs to market and based here. And so this is a great place to attract talent. People like to live here. The quality of life is very high. And there's a lot of great science and innovation to provide the substrate for that.
Mhm. So let's get back to Helix Park and those medical centers that all of you keep talking about. Bill, you've enabled all of this with the construction of Helix Park. So tell me a little bit more about that. What is Helix Park? How did it come to be?
Yeah, thank you, Britt. Helix Park's getting a lot of attention, but I think we shouldn't miss the fact that the unique thing about the Texas Medical Center, which is in its 80th year, what's so unique about it as a city is all of it is densified on 1,400 acres. So imagine in Boston, if you took all the facilities and moved them into one corner of Boston, this density of 120,000 employees that come here treat 10 million patients a year on this campus. And so we've long been known for our clinical excellence. There's more clinical trials that happen on this campus than anywhere in the world. So you take clinical and research, there's been, as you've heard from my colleagues, there's been great innovations here. What we did with Helix Park was those innovations were at MD Anderson and Baylor College of Medicine and the University of Texas and all of these great Sc.D institutions that are on this campus. But never before did we have a place to move all of our translational research to one place to surround it, not just with other entrepreneurs, but venture capital. And that's what this 38-acre campus that I'm sitting on now is being heavily densified by industry, venture capital, side by side with some of the most innovative technologies rolling out of the medical center.
That is a huge amount of space. And that's amazing to streamline all of that into one place. It sounds pretty unique.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
And all of this, Paul, did you want to jump in?
No, I didn't. I'd just like to observe that one of the benefits for me personally is just that here you can literally just walk across the street and have a chat with a physician over coffee. And what we found at RBL LLC is a lot of physicians are coming to us now with ideas for starting companies. And the reason we can do it is simply because we're on the same campus as all of those institutions that Bill was talking about.
And all of this has started to attract national leaders, such as yourself, Bob. You've been in the biotech world for a while now. I mean, you've co-founded more than 40 companies in this space, including Moderna, which is now a household name. What was the draw of Houston for you?
Well, there's probably at least two things. I mean, one of the things that's so personally important to me is my students. Six of my students are professors at Rice. One's a professor at the University of Houston. I also have students who are professors, at other colleges in Texas, like at UT Austin and at UT Southwestern. but really, I want to do whatever I can to help my students and to work with them. Second thing, of course, that's very important to me is see discoveries that my students and I have made, and really other people in biotech, and get them out to the world. I mean, to save lives and to improve lives. And I think that's been the wonderful thing and about these companies, that they've made just such a difference. I mean, like your example about Moderna. I mean, people say that saved 20 million lives, and I mean, so and improved many many others. So I think, but there are a number of examples of companies that can do that, and the more we can do that to help humanity, I mean, that to me is a wonderful thing about this. And then finally, of course, Houston has great schools, like you've heard. They've got an incredible medical center with, MD Anderson. And so it has all of those elements. So, I mean, those are the things that mean something to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Paul, you also have a steeped history in the biopharma world. You're not from Houston originally. I don't know if people can tell from your accent, but it's not a Texas drawl. Tell me about, I mean, you've mentioned a little bit about your initial interest in the city, how you can walk, across the street just to meet with different types of people. But also tell me about the evolution of Rebel LLC.
Yes, we started out with a program within Rice to accelerate projects from the lab into the clinic coming from the bioengineering school at Rice. And that evolved into what became Rebel LLC, which is an independent company. It's funded largely by Rice, but we've now got 3 other VCs involved with funding this organization. And the idea was to be able to expedite these discoveries from bench to bedside in about 3 years or less. That's our target. And the reason we can do it down here is because you've got this rare combination of the clinical capacity. You've got people here that can actually scale up and manufacture a complicated medical product. You've got a population of patients that is greater than anywhere else in North America that you can put a clinical trial together with. And I actually think that Houston offers, because of the proximity, the communication is so good here that you can also speed up the entry of a product into the clinic. But importantly, from my perspective, you can do it on a budget that's a lot less than if you're doing this up in Cambridge. So the facilities at Helix Park are world class. They're much better, and they actually cost less to fill than they would in Cambridge. The cost of doing clinical trial work here is also more reasonable. And my vision is that we actually have a potential here to do a multi-site clinical trial in one zip code. And bringing all that together in one zip code, I think will do 2 things. One is going to be able to allow us to create a biotechnology company here that will be able to run very efficiently and get answers on new technologies very fast. And secondly, I think that this city has the potential to be a hub for a new initiative in how do we increase productivity in the biotechnology industry, particularly with competition from places like China, where we're starting to see that new products are coming from there more and more frequently. And we have to find a way to compete, but on a different basis where we use high quality data that you can generate in centers like Houston for those trials.
That makes a lot of sense. Um, Bob, back to you. You're located in what many would call the center of biotech in the US right now, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Come at me in the comments if you want to, see if you want to fight for another center of biotech in the US. But from your perspective, what are some lessons that Houston took from other biotech hubs like Cambridge to help it grow? And what lessons can other wannabe hubs learn from Houston's development?
Yeah, well, I'm highly prejudiced being an academic, but I think one of the things that I think Houston has done, and I think this is really one of the keys, is to make sure you have great academic institutions. I don't think it's any accident that Cambridge is what it is, because it's got MIT and Harvard and other great schools. Same thing with Stanford. They also have great engineering schools. I remember somebody at MIT was doing a thesis, and his conclusion was those were two of the greatest schools in the world, MIT and Stanford. They were also ranked number 1 and 2 in engineering, MIT being number 1. But I think that's, and I think Rice is doing terrific. I was just down there giving a presidential lecture in May. And they're really building up their engineering culture and their science. And I think that's just so key. To tell you a story about Stanford, though, which I think really changed things there, was, back in, in the 1950s, the provost, Terman, he asked, he wanted to make Stanford even better than it was. And so he asked around who's the best molecular biologist in the world, and they settled on Arthur Kornberg, and they recruited him, and he helped build up Stanford's medical school as good as it was. The other thing he did is he got William Shockley to come and start Shockley Semiconductor, but the story on that is Shockley called up Robert Noyce, who had left MIT in 1950 and started working at a television company, Philco, in Philadelphia, and he asked Noyce if he'd like to come for an interview. By the way, Noyce later would start Intel. But anyhow, so Noyce came out for that interview in Palo Alto, and he got the job, and he flew back. This was 1956 to see his wife in Philadelphia, and he said, "Gee, I think we should take this job." He said the housing is a lot cheaper. And it just shows
housing in the Bay Area is cheaper. That's funny to think about.
Not in the Bay Area, but also, right where Silicon Valley is, I mean,
Yeah.
and it just shows what you can do by both encouraging entrepreneurism, which Houston is doing, and by making great schools. And I think Houston, they just built this giant medical center. And so I think that those kinds of things will, I think they're doing tremendous.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. Bill, back to you. What measurable impact would you say has Houston's life sciences ecosystem achieved in the most recent years?
Well, I think that to Bob's point is you have great academia, but the key thing is throughput. And if you think about most clinical trials in the United States, half of them fail to accrue a single patient. Think of that as a business. Here, we have over 2,000 clinical trials. And as Paul mentioned earlier, the speed to knowledge is what you need. And so one, on a diverse platform. As a matter of fact, many of the trials that were done during COVID had to come to Houston to be finished to make them fully diverse. And whenever you're doing a clinical trial, you have to have a diverse population. Where that's here in our 10 million patients already, largest number of clinical trials. So what's really happened is when we used to think of those as separate Sc.D institutions, we're now making decisions collectively about where we're putting translational research. The venture capital we wrap around it is in one place rather than historically, VCs had to go into 20, 30 institutions to see all of the great technology. Now it's on a showcase in Helix Park, where they can come here and be really efficient with their time to see all the cancer therapeutics for lung cancer, for example. And they can sit in one room and see 20, 30 institutions present their technology. And that speed is really important. It's what Paul often refers to is we're here to really reduce the time it takes from ideation to commercialization. And to Bob's point, that's the difference of changing people's lives.
Mm-hmm. And you have some, you were talking to me earlier about CPRIT, Cancer Prevention Fund. That sounds fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's probably the most brilliant move I've ever seen by government relative, and I know we see a lot of changes in life sciences due to policies. But what happened here in Texas, they decided, MD Anderson's the #1 rated cancer center in the world. But what they did at CPRIT is it basically cancer prevention research in Texas, they put $3 billion aside just to bring the fastest, best technology from around the world here to Texas. And it became a really vortex for great oncologists, scientists to come here. They doubled down and added another 3 billion to it. And recently we just passed DBRIT, which is dementia, and it's broad in brain as well. But that's another 3 billion that's been thrown out. So when you hear about research dropping and at a national level, this is a juggernaut for both cancer and now for research around Alzheimer's, dementia, and the like. So it's quite powerful because physicians, I had a brother who was at Cambridge, at Harvard, came here from CPRIT because massive funds to really accelerate these emerging translational research. So it's proven to be extremely successful.
That's great. And Bob, did you have something to say?
I was just going to add to that, so I mentioned all my students coming to Texas and Houston, and that's one of the big reasons they do it. They get all kinds of offers from everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world, but the offers I would say, get in terms of startup packages at Rice and other schools in Texas is about 3 times what it is in other states, and that's just
that goes a long way in the beginning.
And really, they've turned down offers from just like Bill was saying. I mean, these are all junior faculty, people who've just gotten their PhD or postdocs, and so that CPRIT's been unbelievable in terms of attracting great young people and great older people too.
So, Paul, what would you say is the vision for continued growth moving forward for Houston in this area?
I think for me, the real opportunity here is to build a self-sustaining flywheel where we can actually start creating companies, getting those funded with venture capital on a regular basis. And the last 12 months since we started Rebel, we've actually created 3 companies, including one with Bob. And we're going to plan to do 2 or 3 companies this year. We've got a couple of companies out looking to start financing processes right now. These are close to clinic companies. And we just have to rinse and repeat and create that track record of success. But I'm very confident with the infrastructure we have here, with the support of CPRIT, for example, or DBRIT, and the whole infrastructure that Bill's been able to assemble down here, we're going to get this done. And in 20 years' time, I think Houston will be a very different city, possibly the world leader in biotech by that period of time.
That's a big claim, but I'm here for it.
There
We have about 5 to 6 minutes left, so we're wrapping up. To end in one sentence, I'd love to hear from each of you. What would you tell biotech investors, entrepreneurs, researchers who are now, after this webinar, curious about setting up shop in Houston? Bob, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, just that it has all the elements, to make people want to start companies there and do well. Great science, great universities, great space, access to, as was mentioned, one of the very, very top medical centers in the world. So, I mean, it's got all those elements.
Jeff, what about you?
I would just capitalize on what he's saying and talk about the great science, but also great opportunity. There's great opportunities to build successful companies here.
Mm-hmm. Bill?
I would say the sleeping giant of the Texas Medical Center and Houston has awakened, and it is.
I like that imagery.
It has, and it's got a platform like no other in the world. And as Bob said earlier, that you don't have to leave this country to get the speed, the quality that you often get from other places around the world here in Houston. So we're very excited about the future.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, what about your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to invite anybody in biotech to mess with Texas.
Come mess with Texas. I like it. I like that. Wonderful. Any final thoughts from this group before we close out? Mess with Texas it is.
Yep.
Great. Well, I've never been to Houston, but now I have to go. So I'm looking forward to coming down, seeing Helix Park, and I hope everybody else messes with Texas too.
Thank you,
Yes.
Britt.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
of
Thank you, Brett.
course, thank you for joining us today, everyone. Thank you again to my amazing panelists for their time and insights. And if you want to learn more about Houston's emerging biotech scene, you can visit www.rbl-llc.com. And as always, feel free to share this virtual event discussion across your platforms. It's free for people to watch. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks all.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you.
holidays. Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.